Good evening. This is October 14th, a beautiful fall evening in Athens, and I call to order the Municipal Arts Commission and start the meeting with a request for updates, legislative updates from Andrew or Jeff. Andor.
Andor. In terms of legislative updates, of course, the biggest concern that's been before council is the fate of Arts West and the idea of establishing a better internet connection there so online programming of the arts can take place. And I believe progress is being made on that. I think Andrew would have more details about what's been procured on that.
Yeah, so the mayor's been in discussions with a group called Zayo, which is a fiber company that's was already in progress to run fiber across the city. And the development is we're working and negotiating with them to make the first batch of connections run to through Arts West as we're trying to create a cross-city connection. And that would include boring and adding in about 1.5 inch conduit. And we have an opportunity to purchase a large spool of fiber, multiple strands that could build the city infrastructure even further, potentially lend to economic development long-term as well. So it's an exciting development in that regard, and we're trying to fast track that as quickly as possible, in part because of the timeliness for funding sources and that kind of thing. So it is moving forward. We're moving very quickly on that.
And Andrew, am I correct that that goes to council Monday?
We're wanting it to go to our council is anticipating that the necessary ordinance and the correct language will be available to us on Monday for first reading. And if the administration feels we need to suspend the rules and pass it as soon as possible due to the timing of the CARE money, we're prepared to do that.
And I also understand that the opening of Arts West and rehiring, however you want to phrase it, of Emily is being looked at and is hopeful. So hang in there. The minutes from the September 9th meeting, you should have received those. And was that the one that the letters is supposed to be attached to? I think it was all in one email from Josh, August, September, and all the letters. So I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I second it.
Any discussion?
Never mind. It's been a day.
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. It's passed. Okay, ongoing issues and projects. That the first one is the Art Outside the Box, and my understanding is that Kelly is to update us.
Yes, that's correct. I received an email from Anne, and she has gone ahead and contacted all of the artists, with the promise from the mayor that the money is available. and that the artists will get paid, and they are to send in their paperwork and their sized images to Jackie at Performance Signs. And in the new year, we'll send them instructions and move forward with the boxes.
Excellent. And Andrew, is there any question concerning sizes of boxes? Because Andy Stone used to always tell me that different ones went on different size boxes and they had to figure that out.
Yeah, we're going to work that out on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Those traffic boxes are different sizes depending on location and the size of the lights and that kind of thing that they're running. But we'll be working with Performance Signs on if we need to chop and adjust and move things size-wise. So I think Kelly did a great job of succinctly updating the rest of the traffic box project as I know it. So.
Right.
Very glad to see it moving forward.
We're getting there one step at a time. I forgot to mention under the Arts West section that also we're in the process of putting together a group to look at the feasibility and what's involved for 501c3 for Arts West. And Chelsea, according to the minutes from last month, did we put you on that committee as a representative of Amac? Okay. Well, that works out fine then. We're close to having a committee set, and I talked to the mayor about that today, so I think that's going to get moving forward.
Sounds good.
Any questions, Chelsea, or anybody else?
I have a question. Sorry. Can you just clarify? So this is under Roman numeral 3, item A, correct? Arts West?
Yes.
Okay, because I am taking notes now, and I think I only missed the very first part. But to clarify, so regarding the 501c3 status, what do you mean? Where are we in terms of setting up a committee? You said, could you provide a little more information?
The committee at this point will just be looking at the issue, what it's involved, what it will take to move forward and getting it started. Now, I'm fairly familiar with the process. I'm sure Chelsea is as well. And so I don't expect it to drag its feet too long. So then some of those people who are on the initial committee may or may not become board members of the 501c3.
Okay.
At this point, we're looking at what's ahead. What do we need to do?
Okay. So, and this would be for Arts West to become its own 501c3?
Pardon?
This is specifically for Arts West to become.
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, just to clarify.
It's not necessarily, it's a Friends of Arts West, right? It's not like it's separating from the city and the APRD department altogether. It is specifically kind of like the Friends of the Library.
Right. And all of that's part of the discussion, though.
Yeah.
There's some big questions to move through. And so that's why I set it up the way I did. So there's sort of a feasibility study to start with that then morphs into a board and we're up and running. There are two major parts. One is a legal part. We have possibilities of a lawyer coming on the group, which would be very helpful. And also, the other part of the puzzle is the taxes to get the tax exempt status. That's actually the harder part of the whole process. So all of those things are what this committee will start with. And people I talked to today were like, yeah, let's do it. Let's start next week. So stay tuned.
Are the members of that feasibility study committee, are those printed anywhere?
Well, they're not, because they haven't officially been assigned.
Okay.
Spoken with people, and then we'll, in the next few days, burst out with, we've got a committee. So
Okay.
at this point, they're unnamed,
Okay.
but they're good.
Okay.
Any other questions, Beth, to catch you up on minutes?
No, I'm being pretty brief here, but I just thought, since we're now doing a good job about posting minutes and things like that, that an outsider who hadn't read, something before, might want a little more information in there.
We do get high praise for the quality of our minutes.
Well, I don't know that I can meet Josh's standards.
Josh's standards. He's
but I'm gonna do my best here.
well, thank you for agreeing. Josh and Aunt Judy both notified me that they would not be here this evening. Okay, so issue 3, policies. Where are we? And are we supposed to be now reading what you've done and commenting?
Yes. So I posted about half an hour or so ago, I posted pretty much the first draft of everything that's basically just been rewritten. I only did a handful of changes in the sense of misspellings and small little errors and things like that. And then I started to add comments on things that I felt like that needed to be updated. So, and it's all within the Google Drive, the Amac resources, and it should pop up as new or something like that, but it's just Amac Public Arts Policy 2020. And then I put a 10/14/2020, so that way you guys know that's the correct one. Feel free to read through that and start making comments. And then that way by next meeting, I will go through those comments and hopefully have a couple of proposed changes.
So you're saying make the comments right on the draft?
Yeah, so if you should have access to it, let me make sure that, so yeah, everybody has editor access to it. If you have access to that, that folder, that Amac resources folder.
Okay, excellent. New issues. Renewal of renewal of AMAC terms. And interestingly, 3 of us, me being one, Beth, who's vice chair, was another, and Chelsea was the third. We're all supposed to go off. So we have been renewed for one more term, but Beth and I are being told to prepare to go off at the end of this next term. Yes, we've been on too long. We're getting too long in the tooth or something. But anyway, I did have that conversation with the mayor. So that got me thinking in terms of what our arcing goal should be during the next 2 years. I actually told Scott that it was 1 year, but it's 2. I checked it today and it says 22 it ends. So I think it's a good time to really look at everything, just like we're doing with the policies, and see if we're doing all we can do. And a part of that, my thinking is that each of us should think of a project that we should take on as individuals for the next year. What's going to be my big push on Amac, my sort of signature project? And some of the things that we've already talked about a bit are the arts calendar, which Josh was working on. One that keeps rearing its ugly head is arts funding. And is there more that we can do in terms of establishing funding through the city? And the third one was on the 2040 comprehensive plan. It talks about a heritage square, which includes the Armory, Mount Zion Church, and the History Center. And I thought that was a very interesting cultural plan. So any other ideas right off the top of your head? I'm going to close the door. Things that we should be paying big attention to in 2021. It's going to be a new world.
Hope it better.
Go ahead. I'm back. Anyone? Not a word? Oh my goodness, crickets.
Are you talking about a project that we would take on ourselves?
That you would kind of be in charge of, yes. And it could be something that you've already been doing and what you might do to make it bigger and better. And
well, I still have my dream of finding a place that we can have like a photograph wall.
oh, right, the angel.
Well,
Whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of morphing into something else, just something that people can pose up against that would have, that would be intrinsically Athens. But I'm still in search of that wall.
Okay, well, we can all pitch in and help think about what would be an appropriate place for a photo wall and what image we might like to have on it.
Right.
Something similar to that, I went on a trip a couple years ago, and this village had made a picture frame, life-size picture frame, and the background was, just the scenery. It's, there's no backing on it. And you'd stand in the picture frame, and underneath it would say, from, I can't remember the name of the town, but from beautiful such and such. And the background was, the scenery.
The scenery
that was on the other side. It was really incredible. Kind of a cool thing. It was probably 8 foot by 10 foot.
Yeah.
Stood up.
Enough room for several people to stand within the picture frame.
Right.
Ah, that's a great idea.
Did it have that sort of retro, like 1950s postcard look?
Wish you were here.
Yeah, or greetings from Athens, Ohio, and it would be didn't they used to abbreviate Ohio? a little differently than they do now, or was it just with a lowercase h? Way back in the day before we formalized the 2 letters thing.
Right.
Some just say Athens O, period.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because I've seen that on old postcards and things. Must have been before Oklahoma.
Or Oregon.
Or Oregon, yeah. That could be really neat.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, I think I've seen examples of that in several European cities, like Paris and Berlin and places like that.
Okay.
But to find a iconic image, of the background, it would be so hard. It'd be great if you could be in the middle of Court Street looking down the street, or in front of the campus, or, so it's going to be hard to find something that says Athens and not be in the middle of traffic. But we can find it.
So, Andrew, the one that you saw, does it stay in the same place all the time, or does it get moved around?
It had pylons. It was in the ground permanently.
Okay.
I'm trying to find the example of it, and I may share it with everyone before the end of the meeting.
Okay.
I think I may have taken a picture of it.
I like that idea.
No other huge inspirations of things you've been thinking about? Wow, couldn't we do such and such? And certainly a place to find inspiration is in the 2040 plan. There's some really good ideas in there, and a lot of it has to do with connecting your city's artwork to the city's culture, to neighborhoods that have different histories than other neighborhoods. And I personally love that. I think that's got something, it just makes it not just let's paint another picture, but it's something that really connects with our community.
Mm.
It'd be cool if there could, because we do have some sort of distinctive, right, sections in our city. If there were different locations in the city where you could have this greetings from Athens taken, like on the west side, there's one by Arts West or something with that as the background. And then, something different on the Near East side versus the Far East side, which may have a different name in the future. Do you know what I mean? Just because there are sort of distinctive pieces of art and things in those areas.
That's why I asked the question about that if it were something that could be one place for 6 months and another place another 6 months, that might be an added element, but I have no idea.
Or why not have more than one?
How to go about doing that.
Well, that's where we get creative. But
Right.
yeah, I like it.
Any profound thoughts tonight?
Did you say my name? I'm sorry, the first part cut off. No, not really. Sorry. Long day for sure. I'm sorry. It's something to think about for sure. I mean, of course, I'm guessing Kelly feels the same, that we both missed being able to organize the festival this year. I am really missing live performance at this point, with the union being closed and everything else. So I'm definitely excited to get that going at some point again. Right. But I'll put some thought into some possible other sorts of things too. Whatever became of the idea of people performing in front of businesses or having those spaces carved out? It was like the busking kind of tied into it, but.
Right. We did talk about how about calling it street entertainment?
Right.
And addressing that and see where it goes.
Was this, Scott, are you talking about the idea tied into what Andrew had proposed?
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about it for a little while, and then I think, it was, I think I actually missed a meeting about 3 months ago, like August or something, maybe, and then maybe that was it or something. Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah. So the pilot program, and Jeff can chime in as well, since it's a legislative matter at this point. The pilot program is ending, but it sounds like City Council is willing, or at least looking at adopting the park. I'm going to call it parklets because that's what it is. The parklet program permanently, and that is currently, I believe, up for reading at council with some minor adjustments to the original language. And if that does pass council, there'll be planning time available. This past year that we were kind of under the gun to get things rolling, but using that space, the language does say for the arts, for outdoor seating. I think I added a piece related to gardens or garden space. So truly to make them park-like. The intent would be that we expand beyond the one that took advantage of the program this past year and really change and transform the uptown area. Hopefully bring in business to the uptown area safely. This is one of the ways to do that sustainably and long term. So I think we're really close. Once council hopefully takes a look at it and passes it, that we can move into the design and dream phase and really put together the committee that we talked about several months ago and identify a couple locations and dream up what that could look like and get really creative with the space. And that would also include, having space for busking or live performance of some sort.
I had been out in Oregon in Corvallis, which is where Oregon State University is. So, college town. And they had quite a few parklets. They were generally using them. It was generally spaces that restaurants had, parking spaces outside of restaurants, because people preferred to eat outside for obvious reasons, at this time. And it seems to me you would never find more than one on a block, and they were always on the offshoots of the main drag. Do you know what I mean? So, for example, in our town versus Court Street, although Court Street could probably still handle one in the block between Union and Washington, and then perhaps another one in the block between Washington and State. But their version of that is like 3rd Street, and they would do it on the side streets and have one per block and have a few parking spaces cordoned off.
Yeah. So to your point, Beth, the legislation as it's proposed narrows in on certain sections of the uptown area, and there's a limit to the number in a particular area. I think the most that any block section could have is 4 applications allowed in a certain block area. But there's some spaces that where it's just not feasible to have one, and there's others where the limit is 1 because of the number. It's a percentage of the number of allowable parking spaces in an area, basically.
I'd like to see us go further too with the whole concept of this outdoor spaces for entertainment. We've touched on movies on top of the garage, and we've got the Armory Park, we've got the skate park, we've got what else? We've got Sells Park, there are places up there, and the little amphitheater at the library, and making better use of those, because it seems to me that could be a very low cost where the people who might want to come in and do something in those spaces would pay some kind of a fee. And so it wouldn't be something that the city had to put out a lot of funds to do. Now, that being said, I went up to the parking garage to the top and walked around and tried to conceptualize a performance up there. And there's a great deal that would have to be done there to make a real performance, including electrics, for lighting, for sound, storage, so those things wouldn't have to be taken far away, because weather is an issue. So you really would prefer having something come and use the space for a night rather than trying to have a 4-night run, because then it involves all of those things. So has that been part of the discussion at all? Andrew?
So this idea has been floated around a few times in the past 4 or 5 years. I recall about 2 years ago going up to the top of the parking garage. Mm-hmm. I think with the Visitors Bureau, they wanted to do some sort of event up there. I think Scott and I talked about it at one point pretty seriously.
I've hosted events up there before.
So it's something that's possible, I think. And to the point related to it being uncovered on the top floor, well, one floor down is completely covered by the floor above. So if it is something that can be versatile and moved in short order, I don't know that weather would necessarily be the main factor that would not allow something up there. We do have an application process that exists for hosting events on the top of the parking garage. This past year has been a rough one. I know that there were some students that were interested in hosting some sort of event back in the early spring, but around the time they were interested was when COVID hit. So I think that is something that's worth exploring, or at least framing out more seriously. So it is possible.
Scott,
I have one.
go ahead.
Let me interject this. My concern about the top of the garage is the fact that we've leased out so much of the space for telecommunications and other electronic transmission. It worries me that you would have a crowd of people around that type of equipment. The liability there to me is an issue.
Isn't that two different spaces, though? Isn't the equipment on a level above the space that we're talking about that you enter from the elevator? Then you would go around the corner and up to go where that equipment is.
True. You're correct, but it's kind of like would you want to host a concert next to a large step-down transformer facility like at the heating plant at OU?
It didn't offend me. That was the least of my concerns in looking at it as a performance space. I felt it was separate enough that was not an issue. I did look at it. I did recall when we went through allowing that and all of that, but I just think that the the big space. Basically, it looks like a parking lot, but apparently you can put lipstick on a pig and perform there.
So I guess to Jeff's point, that is something that, I'm willing to look into and evaluate from just a safety perspective. I would say also that, that space up there is currently, open and accessible to anyone. The antenna area is fenced off and cordoned off. It's not an antenna sitting out in the open, but I think that is something that we would want to look at seriously and make sure that we're not compromising some sort of liability there.
Okay, that makes sense. Any other thoughts before we move on?
I'm just curious to know if anybody's been at the Armory Park line. The last time I went there, I don't know. It's been a while. I keep on meaning to swing by, but it just never works out. But the benches and everything that was made with those pallets and things like that, they're starting to look a little dangerous. So I'm not sure if that's something that needs to have some attention built, because if we're wanting to do some more outdoor things there, we might want to look into, the hazards that may cause a safety issue.
What do you mean by dangerous?
Well, I mean, they're old pallets. They're starting to fray. Some of the nails are sticking out and things like that.
Well, that should be looked into immediately then.
Chelsea, can you send me a quick email or message to remind me? And I'll send some staff over there to evaluate that.
Yeah, I mean, when I went months ago, it didn't look too bad, but something that if it wasn't properly sealed or anything like that, or certain wood, warps really easily. So I just want to make sure that we're thinking about things like that.
Well, if it looked dangerous to you months ago, then months have passed, and it's probably something to check out.
Yeah. I will send that email to you right now, Andrew.
Jeff, got a comment?
No, other than
okay. Your frame lit up. Okay. The B under new issues is the gentleman that called me, Buzz Call, about possible murals on the outbuildings by the community center. I have spoken with the mayor about that, and he said as long as whoever does it understands that at some point those buildings are scheduled to be raised. So if they did it and now he didn't say he didn't see that as a very immediate issue, but that he didn't want people to go in and think that their artwork was going to be there forever.
I would say that that's generally the expectation with murals in general. We've talked about that before, that they, aren't necessarily a thing of permanence. But the mayor is correct that at some point, the idea is that we would remove those buildings. They're really close to the road. We need to move the maintenance department that's housed there to another location. But there are no immediate plans. It's not scheduled. It's really not even, in the infancy stage at this point, because we don't have a plan together at this time for where that maintenance team would go. So until we have a home for them, that's not going away anytime in the near future.
Right. And that was what he expressed too. But in whatever we put forward as a proposal should include that it's not considered to be permanent art. And actually, that's how we started our mural projects, was because we had the Stimson Avenue mural that was fading away. And so that was how we got started on all of that. So it makes sense to remind folks that murals are not permanent art.
Carol, sorry. A couple of things.
Sure.
Number one, what was the name of the gentleman who contacted you about that?
Buzz Call.
Buzz Call. That's one of the best names I've ever heard. Okay. And secondly, what's that?
I believe that's the son of Dr. Call and Lois Call.
Yes.
Oh,
I went to high school with him.
I love that name.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from a
So now I know how old you are, Jeff.
very.
So my next question is then, is this, so he made the suggestion, you talked to the mayor, and the mayor is in favor of it, except those buildings are to be raised in the future, just be aware of that. So then where does that put us?
Okay.
Yeah.
We voted at our last meeting
Gotcha.
to start the process with a committee to take a look at it and come up with a plan. So Buzz liked that. He got quite excited about that. And one of the sources that he thought would be good is to have a couple of elementary or middle school art teachers involved in the project, and for that committee to kind of flesh out what it would look like, what the theme is, who would be involved, how to go about it. And he agreed to serve on the committee. If somebody from Amac would like to do that, okay, Beth, that's great.
That's what I wanted to clarify. So this won't just be our typical RFP for a mural then, because we want to have some parameters to it, it sounds like, that are a little more controlled in a way.
Right. And the mayor suggested that perhaps Keith Wow might help us with some advice along the way too, because he's sort of becoming our go-to mural person. And I thought that was an excellent idea. But the concept is to have an image for each building, but a sort of united theme, and then a different group paints the image on each one. It would probably be done with a projection to get the drawing up there to start with. Then it's kind of a paint by numbers process.
Similar to the Armory. Yes, the
Arch West, yes.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, well, in the Armory, yeah. Both of those were done.
So it would be, the idea is to have community participation in the actual painting of it.
Right. So, and Beth, if there's anybody else that you, or really any other commissioners, anybody that you think would be a good person to be involved in that project, we can put out an ask. Any thoughts?
How about commercial sponsorship?
That would be good.
That was sort of my next question was, is there, we know that there is and there isn't really money for these things.
Right.
So where does this fall in the is or isn't money?
Well, money has not been discussed.
Okay.
And basically what we're talking about is an overseer of the project and the paint are the expenses. Buzz has already said that he would contribute part of that.
Okay.
But I think going at it from a standpoint of raise the funds from various schools, and if a school art program got excited about it, I think that would not be that difficult to do.
Well, this is the time of year where they do the paint the plow thing.
Right.
And that's with the Department of Transportation, of course. It'd be interesting to see how that goes down exactly. I know I was at a school actually where we painted the plow. But I also know that the teacher was left, as I recall, it's been a few years, but she was left pretty much on her own to figure it all out.
Right.
They just come and dump off the giant plow in the front of your school. And then I don't even know that they necessarily had funding for the painting. I'm not sure.
And I guess that's what I'm thinking about for this committee.
Yeah.
Okay, what are the issues and what do we expect of teachers that might get involved? And is there some compensation for them?
Yeah.
And if we wanted to raise some money, how would we do that?
Okay.
I'd also recommend that the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Department be involved. The building.
Good thought.
They oversee that. Ought to be included on the committee at the very least, but there'll be some oversight and direction there. So I'd recommend reaching out to Terry Moore, the director over there, and that can be added as an agenda item for their advisory board and work on some communication collaboration in that regard.
Okay.
Okay, so this sounds like this will become my thing then for my final hurrah.
All right. Right. And I will send you Buzz's contact information. Plus, I will tell him that you are going to be involved. And he did have a couple of people that he was going to ask if they wanted to be involved, and they said no. So back to square one with that. So I don't know. I think it's part.
Well, can I
what
make a
we
suggestion?
say to people, Jeff.
We have Menards, Sherman-Williams, and Florimore.
Right.
They all sell paint, brushes, and supplies.
Yep.
And Lowe's, of course.
I'm sorry?
And Lowe's, of course.
Anyway, Lowe's, yeah.
Walmart. And actually, Walmart used to have those, you could apply each year for those community grants from Walmart.
Right, you can. They tend to give fund most of them at the $50 level, which doesn't do a whole lot to.
No.
Nothing. No, the thing it had to do with someone like Menards who's just come into town is trying to do public relations and get as much business as they can from the other big box stores is say, listen, we need 25 gallons of white paint.
Right.
We want, thank you. Otherwise, the community might not like you so much anymore.
Okay, any other thoughts on the murals outside the community center? All right, we're to announcements and other business. Anyone have anything they're thinking about? Oh, I have something I'm thinking about. Do we want, in this 2-year period, to apply again for the Ohio Arts Council Award? it seems to me like we're branching out. We're doing more and looking at more possibilities.
Well, 3 times a charm.
3 times is a charm. I can talk to Josh about it a little bit and see, because the second time we did not even do anything. They called us and said, we don't have enough applications. Can we use your application from last year? And we said yes. And actually, when I called them to say that that you guys said yes, I knew immediately they had somebody in mind, because they're like, okay, thanks, bye. So things had changed since they had talked to me and told me that they would like to use our recycled application. But I think we could, starting far enough ahead, I don't know if this is far enough ahead, but anyway, we could really classy up what we've done in terms of an application. Chelsea, you're somewhat of an application expert. So perhaps we'll be looking to you to have some ideas on that grant funding process, which is tough.
Yep, I'll look through it.
All right.
Next year.
Can you remind me of the title of that award again? Is it a governor's something? Chelsea, do you remember anyone?
So it's the Governor Awards, and the award category, I believe, did we do the community development and participation?
Yes.
Okay, say that again.
So it's, you go to oac.ohio.gov, it's the Ohio Arts Council. There's news and events, so it's the Governor's Awards.
Right.
And then we have applied for the community development and participation.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else to come before this august crowd? Please vote.
Yes, I voted today.
I checked mine today and they said your ballot has been received and will be counted. I'm like, yeah.
I voted yesterday.
I took my mom actually today. She was very eager to do it. And when she got out of there, she's like, that felt good.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yep.
Okay. If there is no further business for us, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We'll give it to Jeff.
Second?
I'll second.
Meeting is adjourned.
I'll 5.
Thank you, guys. And isn't it cool how short